At the corporate evening, my wife saw no one but him. In the morning she found I wasn't even supposed to be driving that way home. The meeting had run long, classic corporate nonsense, where nobody really wanted to be there, but everyone wanted to say something just to be seen. I sat through slide decks full of buzzwords and promises that wouldn't survive the quarter. By the end, I was mentally wiped. It was already close to 9 p.m. when I got into the car. I could have taken the express route home, but I didn't. Maybe I just wanted to clear my head. Maybe I wanted to stall before walking into another quiet night at home with Hannah, who lately had been more roommate than wife. I took the lake route, then veered off toward the West Loop. That's when I saw her. It happened fast, but also in slow motion, the kind of moment your brain tries to both dismiss and dissect at the same time. She was standing outside a place called Margot's, some trendy farm-to-table wine bar we talked about trying a couple years ago when it first opened. I even remember adding it to a list on my phone titled Date Spots. We never went. She was with a man, not a group, not a colleague from her team, just him. He was tall, clean-cut, business casual but on the expensive side. I couldn't see much of his face from the angle, but I saw enough. His body language was relaxed, confident, like he belonged beside her. And Hannah. God, Hannah looked different. Not in a dramatic way, but there was a softness in her face, a lightness in her posture I hadn't seen in a long time. She was smiling in that slow, almost shy way she used to when we first started dating. Back when she'd tell me dumb stories about her coworkers and laugh mid-sentence because she was too excited to finish. But this wasn't for me. Their hands brushed. It didn't look accidental. Not quite holding hands, but close. Like they were used to each other. Comfortable. I told myself I was jumping to conclusions. That maybe it was work. That maybe I was misreading something innocent. But then she tilted her head slightly, gave him a look. One I hadn't seen directed at me in. Honestly, I don't know how long. And just like that, I drove past. My windows were up. I don't even think she noticed me. I don't know why I didn't stop. I had every reason to. But my body went cold. Like my instincts kicked in and told me not yet. Something deep inside me decided it needed more than one moment to believe something so heavy. So I went home. I pulled into the driveway like it was any other night, my brain moving a mile a minute, trying to find some kind of logical explanation. I waited. She came home 20 minutes later. Coat folded neatly over one arm. Hair tucked behind her ears the way she does when she's being formal. She looked surprised to see me sitting in the living room, but not nervous. Not guilty. "Hey," she said, smiling easily. "You're back early." I looked at the clock. "It's 9:30. She slipped off her boots, placing them perfectly beside the door like always. "Yeah, I had to swing by Margot's. One of our vendors had a last-minute question. He was in town just for the night, so I figured I'd meet him real quick." She said it so casually. I looked at her. "You didn't mention it earlier." She shrugged. "It was last minute. I figured it wasn't worth texting you over. Just a quick chat. 5 minutes, tops." I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Anyone else from your team there?" She shook her head. "No, just me and him. Tom, he handles one of our fulfillment contracts in St. Louis. Super boring stuff. Honestly, I'd rather have stayed home." She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge like nothing was off. "You eat yet?" "No." She pulled out leftovers, offering me some. I said no. I watched her move around the kitchen, completely composed. There was no shakiness in her voice, no hesitation. Nothing about her demeanor screamed caught. If anything, she seemed peaceful. But that image of her outside the restaurant was burned into my head. That smile. The lean, the brush of hands. Even if she wasn't cheating, yet there was something there. Something she wasn't telling me. Something that made her smile like that. That night, I lay awake longer than usual. She fell asleep quickly, back turned to me. I stared at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. That I was being dramatic. That I was making something out of nothing because we'd been distant lately. But I knew Hannah, or at least I thought I did. And the way she looked at that man, that wasn't a vendor look. That wasn't the face you make when discussing fulfillment contracts. It was subtle but real. And once you see something like that, once you catch even a flicker of it, it's hard to unsee. It's like a thread that unravels everything else. And God help me, I started pulling at it. The next morning, I didn't bring it up again. I just made coffee like usual and asked how she slept. She said, "Like a rock," then kissed me on the cheek. I tried not to flinch. On the outside, nothing had changed. But on the inside, everything was different now. I watched her more closely. How often she checked her phone, how often she smiled while looking at it. I noticed she took it with her even when she stepped out back for 2 minutes to water her plants. She never used to do that. The doubt had been planted. And even though she seemed calm, maybe too calm, something about last night felt like the first crack. The tiniest fracture in what I thought was solid ground. And deep down, I think she knew I saw it too. The thing about suspicion is that once it takes root, everything starts to look like evidence. I wish I could say that night outside the restaurant was a one-off, something easily explained and quickly forgotten. But the truth is, it cracked something wide open in me. I didn't confront Hannah. I didn't accuse her. I didn't scream or storm out or ask for answers I knew she wouldn't give. Instead, I started remembering, noticing, connecting dots I'd brushed off before. Started small. A late meeting here, a weekend work trip there. But now, those small things seemed bigger in retrospect. Like how she'd started taking evening calls around 8 p.m., conveniently timed right after dinner. She'd disappear into the guest room with her laptop and close the door. I'd sometimes hear her laughing, light, flirty, almost nervous. When I'd ask who it was, she'd say it was her team lead or that guy from HR with the weird cat. Always something harmless. But then there was the lingerie. A few weeks before that night, I'd found a bag from a boutique I didn't recognize tucked into the back of our shared closet. It wasn't hidden exactly, but it wasn't where she usually kept new stuff either. Inside was a matching set, deep Berg ** NDY lace, clearly expensive. I joked about it when I first saw it. "Special occasion I don't know about?" She'd smiled. "It's actually a gift for Lauren. Bachelorette thing. I just picked it up for her." At the time, I didn't question it. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But Lauren's wedding had already happened. 2 months ago. And Hannah hadn't even attended the bachelorette weekend because of work travel. That memory hit me like a slap the morning after I saw her with the man on Randolph. And suddenly, I was rewinding everything in my mind, looking for more, searching for inconsistencies I'd ignored the first time around. Like Milwaukee. 3 weeks prior, she said she was going to Milwaukee for a women's leadership conference. Just a quick overnight thing, leaving Friday morning and returning Saturday evening. She even sent me a *T of the hotel confirmation. Courtyard Marriott, downtown. But when I was doing laundry the following Monday, I found a crumpled room key in the pocket of her jeans. It didn't say Marriott on it. It had the logo of a boutique hotel in St. Louis, one we'd stayed at together a couple of years ago during a spontaneous anniversary weekend. It wasn't just any hotel. It was a place with character. Dim lighting, plush robes, handwritten welcome notes. Not the kind of place you pick for a business trip. I remember standing there in the laundry room, holding that key card between my fingers, feeling this cold, slow-burning dread spread through my chest. I hadn't said anything then. I told myself maybe she switched hotels. Maybe something came up. Maybe it was for work. Always maybe. But maybe had a short shelf life. Then there was the bracelet. It showed up on her wrist out of nowhere. Delicate silver with a charm shaped like a leaf. I'd never seen it before. When I asked, she said it was a gift from a coworker. Just a thank you for helping with a project. I asked who. She said, Michelle. A few days later, I asked about it again casually. She said, Morgan. It was a small detail. One word. One name. But it didn't match. That same week, she started taking her phone everywhere. I mean everywhere. To the bathroom. To the shower. She'd prop it up on the counter and angle it away. She'd even keep it face down during dinner, only flipping it when she thought I wasn't looking. She changed her passcode. Not right away, but gradually. I noticed one night when she asked me to check the time while we were watching TV. I tried the old code and it didn't work. She laughed, said she changed it because she was trying to be more secure. Something about too many phishing scams going around. Sure, phishing. Then came the late-night showers. That one stood out because it wasn't her habit. She was a morning shower person, always had been. But lately, she'd start taking showers around 10 or 11 p.m. Said it helped her sleep. Said it was her way of unwinding. I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her. But the part that ate at me the most was how normal she acted through it all. Like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't watched her share a moment outside a restaurant with a man whose name I still didn't know. Like I hadn't seen her carry herself in a way that didn't belong to us anymore. I started sleeping with one eye open. That's not a figure of speech, I mean it literally. I'd lay in bed next to her, pretending to scroll my phone while she drifted off, listening to her breathing, watching her roll away from me. Some nights, I'd wake up to find her gone, only to hear her creeping back into the bedroom minutes later, phone in hand, screen glowing faintly. I never said anything. Not directly. I started asking indirect questions. Casual ones. The kind that sound innocent unless you're guilty. Who was that texting you at dinner? Oh, just Kelly. She's going through something. Your trip to Milwaukee, how was the conference? Did you get to check out the Riverwalk? We didn't have time. It was all meetings. You know how those things go. Did you end up grabbing lunch with Lauren last weekend? Oh, we rescheduled. She had a thing. She always had answers, but they felt rehearsed, like the story had already been written and she just needed to remember her lines. I started writing things down. Sounds crazy, but I did. In a notes app on my phone, I kept a timeline, dates, details, little things I'd noticed. Not because I wanted to catch her, but because I needed to keep myself from feeling like I was losing my mind. I typed things like, August 17th, new lingerie. Gift for Lauren. 8/24, Milwaukee trip. Found St. Louis keycard. August 29th, bracelet, conflicting stories. September 2nd, dinner alone. Caught her at Margot's with unknown man. September 3rd, passcode changed. Each entry made my stomach twist, but it also gave me clarity. I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't paranoid. Something was happening. Still, I wasn't ready to confront her. I wasn't even sure what I'd say. I didn't have proof. Just a gut feeling and a pile of inconsistencies. But I knew the way she used to look at me, and I knew the way she looked at that man. And no matter how many explanations she gave me, how calm her tone, how casual her deflections, that difference screamed at me louder than anything else. Whatever was happening, it had started before that night on Randolph. That was just the moment I finally stopped pretending not to see it. I don't know what I expected the morning after that sleepless night. Maybe I thought I'd wake up and everything would feel less certain. Like I'd overreacted. That I'd check my notes and decide I'd been reaching. That maybe I'd apologize in my head for doubting her and get back to trying to fix what I thought was just a rough patch in our marriage. But none of that happened. Instead, I woke up to an email. An anonymous sender. No subject line. Just one line in the body. You deserve the truth. Beneath that was a Dropbox link. I hesitated. Every voice in my head told me not to click it. Could have been spam, a virus, a scam. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The timing, the message, it was too personal. I clicked. The folder contained 6 photographs. No context. No explanation. Just pictures. The first was Hannah and the same man I'd seen her with at Margot's. They were standing in front of a check-in counter. The background was unmistakable. The hotel in St. Louis. She was holding a small suitcase. He had his hand on the small of her back. The timestamp in the corner was from 2 weekends ago, the exact dates of her so-called Milwaukee conference. The second photo was of them in the hotel lobby. Same man, same outfit. Her head was tilted back in laughter, eyes soft. The kind of expression I hadn't seen directed at me in years. She looked happy, relaxed, present. The third one was harder to look at. They were walking side by side, out of what looked like a downtown bar. It was late. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m. Her arm was linked through his. I knew that body language. That wasn't work. That wasn't casual. That was int asterisk Macy. The fourth photo sealed it. They were in the parking lot, standing between two cars. He leaned in. She didn't back away. Her hand found his jaw like it had done it 1,000 times before, and they kissed slow, deliberate, comfortable. Not a heat-of-the-moment kind of kiss. Not fueled by alcohol or impulse. It was the kind of kiss you give when there's history behind it. When it's not new, but familiar. I felt my heart cave in on itself. The final 2 images were from earlier that same evening. One of them sitting in a booth together, a half-drunk bottle of wine between them. His arm draped behind her on the seat, her hand on his leg. The last one, it was blurry, but the setting was clear. The rooftop bar at the hotel. Hannah was laughing, turned toward him, one leg tucked under the other, the kind of posture you settle into when you know you're going to stay a while. When you feel safe. When you feel wanted. That morning, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my laptop for what felt like hours. The coffee I'd made went cold. My phone buzzed a few times, emails, group chats, random reminders. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was no longer suspicion, no longer deduction. It was confirmation. Undeniable. That man wasn't a vendor. That trip wasn't Milwaukee. Those laughs weren't professional. That kiss wasn't a mistake. And Hannah? She wasn't who I thought she was. Not anymore. Eventually, I closed the laptop. I walked upstairs and stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, like none of this touched her. Like she was floating through our life with secrets tucked safely away while I unraveled. I thought about waking her up. About throwing the laptop onto the bed and demanding answers. About yelling. About crying. About finally releasing the storm I'd been holding inside for weeks. But I didn't. I just turned around, walked back downstairs, and sat in the living room in complete silence. When she woke up an hour later, she came down in sweatpants and one of my old t-shirts. Hair messy. Eyes soft with sleep. She kissed my head. "Morning, babe." I didn't respond. She opened the fridge, poured juice, asked if I wanted eggs. I said no. She glanced at me. "You okay?" I looked up at her. "Do you love me?" Came out quieter than I intended. She blinked. "What? Do you love me?" I repeated. She smiled. But it faltered. "Of course I do. Why would you ask that?" I just nodded. That was the last time I asked her anything directly. I knew the truth. I had seen it. I didn't need to be gaslit anymore. I didn't need more lies. What I needed was time, space, plan. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was how good she was at hiding it. How normal she kept everything. How she kissed me goodbye while planning overnight trips with someone else. How she told me about late meetings while sharing wine with a man whose hand she knew better than mine. That day, I started backing up everything. Photos, notes, bank statements, **TS. I forwarded the anonymous email to a separate account. I saved every file 3 times. It felt cold, calculated. Like I was building a case. Because I knew if I confronted her without a plan, she'd spin it. She was good at that. She'd cry. She'd deflect. She'd *P***nize her calm tone. Her reasonableness. Her practiced empathy. I couldn't let that happen. So I did nothing for a little while. She went about her routine. Late-night showers. Locked phone. Work calls. She'd even bring home takeout from the same neighborhood where she was photographed with him. As if I wouldn't notice the receipt left in the bag. Every time she smiled at me, I saw the rooftop bar. Every time she touched my hand, I remembered her touching his. Every "I love you" felt like a slap. But I said nothing. I needed her to think I still believed her. Because the next time I said something, anything, it wouldn't be a question. It would be the end. Hannah had always taken pride in her career. She wasn't the kind of person who did things halfway. Promotions, awards, monthly spotlights. She collected them like souvenirs. Even before we got married, she made it clear that her job wasn't just a job. It was her identity, her proving ground. I admired her for that. Still do, honestly. So when she mentioned the annual corporate gala was coming up, I didn't think twice about it. "You should come," she said, leaning over the kitchen counter one night while sipping chamomile tea like we were just two regular people with a regular life. "It's at the Peninsula this year. Fancy stuff. Open bar. Good excuse to dress up." I nodded slowly. "You want me there?" She smiled. "Of course." That was a Tuesday. By Friday, she casually mentioned that her department had changed seating assignments and that I might not be sitting at her table after all. "They overbooked," she said, brushing her hair into a ponytail. "We'll probably have to meet up after dinner, but it'll still be fun." Sure. I told her I'd meet her there. Said I'd Uber separately, maybe swing by a friend's place first. I wanted the freedom to leave early if things got uncomfortable. And they did. When I walked into the ballroom, everything was exactly as polished as I expected. Crystal chandeliers, linen tablecloths, the kind of floral arrangements you only see at weddings or award shows. Everyone was dressed to impress. Men in dark suits, women in gowns that sparkled under low lights. I scanned the room. It didn't take long to spot her. She was sitting at a corner table toward the front, laughing, drink in hand. Her dress was black, sleek, understated but expensive looking. Her hair was curled the way she does it when she really wants to turn heads. But I wasn't the one she was turning toward. It was him, the same man from the photos, the same man from Margot's, the same man who'd kissed her in a parking lot like he'd done it 100 times before. He was there. And not just there, he was with her. I watched them from a distance. I didn't need to get closer. I knew the language of proximity, of body orientation, of small, familiar gestures that said more than words ever could. Her body leaned slightly toward him. Her knees pointed in his direction. Her arm resting on the back of his chair as if it belonged there. His hand brushed hers once. Then again. They shared a look, and she smiled. The same smile I'd seen in every damning photograph. And the worst part? They weren't hiding it. Not even a little. They were surrounded by colleagues, some of whom I recognized from old Christmas parties or Zoom backgrounds. And none of them looked surprised. If anything, they looked like they'd grown used to it. I stood there, completely invisible. Eventually, one of her coworkers, a woman I vaguely remembered as being in marketing, noticed me. Her eyes widened slightly, and she gave me this tight-lipped smile, like she wasn't sure whether to greet me or pretend she hadn't seen me. That's when I knew the secret wasn't just between Hannah and her mystery man anymore. It had leaked, or maybe it had never been hidden in the first place. I didn't walk over. I didn't cause a scene. I just turned and made my way to the bar. I stood there, nursing a whiskey I didn't want, trying to pretend I still had control over something. 15 minutes later, she appeared beside me. "Hey," she said, acting surprised. "Didn't know you were already here." I glanced at her. "Got here about 20 minutes ago." She smiled and adjusted her necklace, glancing around like she was looking for someone, or making sure someone was watching. "Have you eaten yet?" she asked. "Not really hungry. You could have come said hi. I would have introduced you around." I stared at her for a moment. "You looked busy." She didn't respond to that, just sipped her wine. A moment passed between us. Quiet, tense, full of things we weren't saying. She leaned in slightly. "You okay?" I forced a smile. "Peachy." She opened her mouth to say something else, but her eyes flicked toward the ballroom entrance. I followed her gaze. He was standing there, talking to another guy in a blue blazer, but his eyes were locked on Hannah. And Hannah? She didn't look away. We left separately that night. She said she had to stay for clean-up conversations and post-event networking. I nodded and said I'd see her at home. She offered a soft smile, almost apologetic. "Thanks for coming," she said, as if I were a stranger who showed up to a fundraiser out of obligation. When I got home, I didn't wait up. I lay in bed, phone dark, room cold. I didn't even hear her come in. The next morning, she moved around the kitchen like it was any other Saturday. She made eggs, hummed softly to herself. I didn't speak. I sat at the table with a coffee I didn't want, watching her like she was a stranger inhabiting the shell of someone I used to know. Then, around 10:30, her phone buzzed. Twice. Then again. She picked it up, frowned, and walked out of the room. That's when the email came in. Not to me, to her. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But she'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, and the notification popped up on the screen like it wanted to be found. Subject: HR policy violation urgent. From Office of Corporate Conduct. I stared at the header for a long time, heart pounding. After she left the room, I opened it. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. The message was brief, formal, clinical. Hannah, following our preliminary review, we regret to inform you that your conduct has been found in violation of the company's personal conduct and workplace relationship policy. Your badge access has been temporarily deactivated while final determination is pending. A formal HR hearing is scheduled for Monday morning. Corporate Compliance Division. I leaned back from the screen, heart in my throat. So it wasn't just me. It wasn't just my suspicion, or my hurt, or my late-night spiraling. Other people saw it. Other people knew. And now, there were consequences. When she came back into the kitchen, she looked pale, shaken. Something happened? I asked, voice steady. She blinked, caught off guard by how calm I sounded. Just work stuff, she said, grabbing her laptop. I didn't stop her. I didn't ask what kind. I just nodded. Inside, something shifted. For the first time, I felt not relief exactly, but confirmation. The truth had outed itself publicly, irreversibly. There was no version of this where she got to keep playing innocent. The part that used to want to believe her, it was gone now. What was left was quieter, colder, but somehow steadier. I wasn't crazy. She wasn't careful. And the truth? It had finally caught up. When you finally stop lying to yourself, there's a strange kind of silence that settles in. Not peace, at least not at first. It's more like standing in the wreckage after a tornado's passed. You're still trying to understand what's left, what's gone, and what was never real to begin with. That's where I was the morning after Hannah's badge was deactivated. She didn't mention it again. Didn't bring up the email. Didn't say a word about HR or her cleanup conversations, or the fact that the entire ballroom likely saw her wrapped around a man who wasn't her husband. Instead, she floated through the day like someone avoiding mirrors. She did laundry, answered texts, watched TV. When I passed by, she gave me little half-smiles like we were fine. But we weren't. We hadn't been for a long time. That day, I started packing her things. Not everything. Not the big stuff. Just the parts that felt too heavy to look at anymore. A drawer full of keepsakes. Photos from our early years, vacations, birthdays, Polaroids from friends' weddings. Cards we wrote each other. Her bathrobe. The earrings I gave her for our 3rd anniversary. All of it went into a suitcase. Carefully. Respectfully. Quietly. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because the pretending was done. And I wasn't going to keep living in a house full of ghosts. While I folded a sweater she hadn't worn in months, something in my chest gave way. Not like a dam bursting, but more like a quiet shift, a click of finality. That sweater used to be her favorite. She wore it on our last trip to Michigan. I remembered us walking a shoreline trail, her hand in mine, hair caught in the wind, talking about getting a dog, maybe even kids. Now it just smelled like her perfume. Faint, distant, foreign. That's what hurt the most. It wasn't the betrayal itself. It was how complete it had become. How she had rewritten our life in the background while smiling at me in the foreground. That day I saw her outside Margot's, it wasn't a beginning. It was a middle, maybe even an end. I just didn't know it yet. I started walking backward through our timeline, like retracing steps at a crime scene. There was the new perfume, jasmine and musk, subtle but expensive. She said she got it as a sample, but it showed up right around the time her late meetings became more frequent. There was the shift in how she dressed, less casual even on weekends. I just want to feel good about myself again, she said once, brushing me off when I asked. Self-care, remember? Then there were the Amazon packages, things she never used in front of me. A new phone case, a second curling iron. Silk nightwear she claimed was for selfies with the girls during a spa night that never seemed to happen. And the receipts, Uber rides to unfamiliar addresses, takeout orders from places we never ate at, a boutique hotel charge that she said was from booking an event for work. One lie is easy to explain. Dozens? Not so much. I thought about confronting her. Thought about dragging it all into the open, forcing her to explain every detail while I sat there silently holding proof after proof. But I didn't want her to explain anymore. I didn't want her words. I wanted distance. So I put the suitcase by the door. That evening, she noticed. She came into the hallway, towel drying her hair, glancing at the packed bag. "What's this?" she asked, trying to sound light. I didn't look at her. Just making space. For what? I didn't answer. She stared at the suitcase for a moment too long. "You're mad." "No," I said. "I'm done." She tilted her head like she didn't understand the sentence, like the sound of it hadn't fully landed yet. "Done with what?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "With pretending," I said. "With giving you the benefit of the doubt. With living like I'm some background character in your new life." Her eyes searched mine. For guilt? For fear? For a crack she could work her way through? I don't know. But she didn't find it. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I saw the photos." Her face went still. Not shocked. Not devastated. Just still. And in that moment, I saw everything I needed to. She wasn't surprised I'd found out. She was surprised it took me this long. "How?" she asked. "Does it matter?" She hesitated, then sat on the edge of the stairs. "It's not what you think." "Don't," I said flatly. "I'm not here for another round of half-truths and rerouted guilt. You had chances to come clean. You didn't." She wiped her hand across her forehead. "I didn't want to hurt you." I gave a bitter smile. "That ship sailed the moment you kissed him in a parking lot." "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said, voice breaking. "You didn't mean for it to be photographed either," I replied. She looked up at me then. Tears welled, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen enough to know the difference between regret and remorse. Remorse changes behavior. Regret just reacts to getting caught. "You're throwing away everything," she said quietly. "No," I said. "You did. One lie at a time. One night at a time. One touch, one message, one late meeting at a time." She stood up suddenly, pacing. "I didn't plan this, okay? It just happened. I was lonely. You were always busy. We stopped talking. I felt like I was invisible in this house. And you made yourself visible in someone else's arms," I said. She stopped walking. I continued. "I've been exhausted too, Hannah. I've been burned out, confused, trying to figure out why I was suddenly the only one fighting for something I thought we both built." "I was fighting," she said. "No," I said. "You were hiding. Big difference." A long silence followed. Then I said, "You'll need to find somewhere else to stay." She swallowed hard. "You're kicking me out?" "I'm asking you to leave," I said, "because I need space to rebuild the version of myself that existed before all of this. And I can't do it with you here, pretending we're still something we're not." Her hands trembled slightly. "And that's it." I nodded. She glanced at the suitcase again. "I thought I had more time." "You had all the time in the world," I said. "You just spent it on someone else." She didn't respond, didn't cry, didn't collapse into apologies or plead with me to stay. She just stood there, small, tired, caught. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel confused or crazy or full of questions. I just felt clear. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure. The illusions were broken. And now, finally, so was the spell she'd cast on me. A few days later, Sarah, his wife, found me. She'd seen the signs too. Together, we compared timelines, receipts, text threads. She had **TS of video calls where Hannah appeared behind her husband. We sent everything to HR at both companies. The fallout was immediate. Terminations, reputations wrecked. What once felt like paranoia was now confirmed reality. I wasn't alone anymore, and neither was she. Hannah tried reaching out, calls, texts, even a letter. I ignored it all. Changed locks. Closed our joint accounts. At a friend's party weeks later, she showed up looking worn down. She didn't say a word. In her purse, she later found a folded note I had slipped in. Do not look for me. That was my goodbye. Not loud. Not angry. Just final. The pain didn't vanish, but in its place came clarity. Not triumph, just peace.